We're just going to beetle out to the shop here. Look at that. You know, it's pretty cool. We've lived out here for 12 or 13 years. My wife and I made the decision to move to the country. We met in the city. I met my wife in high school, friends. We've been together ever since, like long time, 26, 27 years, something like that. And we've been together ever since, but we made the decision like 13 years ago, it'll be 13 years this summer, to move out to a piece of property and live the old way, I guess. But one thing I don't take for granted is stars. You don't get to see this in the city, but anyhow, friends, it is still freezing. This is the last day of it. We have been under cold weather watch for extreme weather warning, they call it up here. We've been under a cold weather advisory for 3 weeks. It's been rough. And anyhow, today's video, I want to talk about Buckin Stock, an event that's coming up. And I want to talk to you guys about that. And got two really interesting emails, and I want to talk about both of them because they both pertain to maybe stuff that you guys are horsing around with. Anyhow, friends, I gotta get in the shop because my fingertips are getting cold. I'll see you guys in the shop. We're in the freezing cold power saw shop. It is Friday night in the shop. How you guys doing? I'm actually really excited this week. I've made the plans. I'm going to Buckinstock. My friend Buckin Billy Ray used to have Buckin Stocks years ago, and I don't know the full story because I've never been to one. I've always wanted to go. I remember watching them on YouTube, and there was Buckin and Harvey and Bellhopper, you know, and a group of guys, and they're all just talking saws and hanging out, and I thought, you know, that would be just an absolute blast. Well, I haven't had one for years, and Buckin let me know he's having another Buckin Stock. So before I flop too much, if you guys are interested in going, it's June 19th and 20th, I believe, or 20th and 21st. It's that Friday and Saturday in June. It is in Indiana. If you guys are interested in going, go to buckinbillyray.com. There's a link on there if you want to get tickets. There's a limited amount of spots left. They filled up pretty quick. They might even be sold out now as I say this. But friends, I'm going to go to Buckinstock. I think that's the event I'm going to go to this year. If I can, I'll fit in Bunyan again. But 100% I'm going to go to Buckinstock. And I think I decided, I looked at the route. It's about a 14-hour drive for me, kind of straight down. I'm over top of North Dakota. You know, I'm right here, and like Minnesota's right here, so it's kind of down through Minnesota, Chicago, and then down to Indiana. So I think I'm going to drive, friends. Maybe I'll load up the Power Stroke, fill it up with some power saws, and I'll drive down there. I have a slip tank, which makes traveling fairly easy, and maybe I'll just drive down there. I like flying, but I want to see some countryside. And then I thought, maybe I'll go straight down to Davenport, Iowa. I don't know why, but that sounds like a fun place to go. Sounds country. I'm sure Iowa's quite country, and you guys know me, I'm pretty country. So maybe down to Davenport and then over into Indiana there. But 15-hour drive, I could do it quite easily. And so anyways, if you guys want to hang out with me, the Tin Man, or hang out with me again, maybe some of you guys came to Paul Bunyan. We're going to do a 2-day event, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And I thought, well, if we could drive down there, I can bring a bunch of saws. Maybe I'll bring the cutaway. Who knows? Maybe I can bring some porting gear. Sky's the limit, friends. If I can drive down there, I can bring whatever I want. So it's going to be a good time. So if any of you guys want to go, check out the details on Buckin's site. And if you are going, post a comment. I like to know who's coming to events. It's really exciting when I get to meet you guys when we go to Paul Bunyan and you guys walk up and you say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm like, wow, I've been reading your comments for years. You know, you can have 62,000 subscribers like I do, and you remember the names of a lot of the people that post. I read your guys' comments every day. Twice a day, 3 times a day, I go into my comments and I just read through them and I answer some, and it's just become part of my daily schedule. So if you guys are coming, post a comment below. I can't wait to meet you, and let's have some fun. Number 2, friends. spring is coming, and I need me a motorcycle. The Kawasaki is no longer with us. Had fun on that bike, but it's no longer here. So I've been looking at Harleys, and I've mentioned this to you guys. I think I found the right Harley. I wanted something vintage, but not too vintage. I know that sounds crazy, but I think down the road, I'd like to buy a Shovelhead as a second bike, but I think for a daily, I'm going to commute to work on this bike often and go for weekend rides and stuff like that. Maybe go on a road trip. I wanted something newer, but not too new. So I found about a 20-plus-year-old bike. It looks super minty. I actually phoned the fella up. The ad came down, and I phoned him and said, "Hey, you wouldn't happen to still have that bike?" And he said, "Yeah, but I'm in the States for the winter." So, anyways, I yacked him for a while. Seemed like a good fella. It sounds like he's had the bike probably since new or darn near. And so, anyways, friends, he's probably going to be in town in the next week or two. And if that happens, we're going to go look at a motorcycle. I haven't had a Harley Davidson since 2004. Hopefully I still like them. I don't know. We always change, right? And I've had everything there is under the sun. I've had Yamahas, Hondas, Suzukis, Kawasaki's, Harleys. I've ridden Triumphs, and I've had Ducatis, and you guys name it. I've had pretty much the appetizer sampler of bikes. I've never had a BMW. I went to buy one time, and I test rode it, and I'm like, this is a little too weird for me. So one of them Boxer twins. But anyhow, friends, I won't flop anymore. I saw 2 interesting emails today, and I thought I'm going to touch on both of them. One should be a fairly quick example or answer, not example. But this one here from Chris. Chris is on his 4th porting job. Right on, Chris. He's doing a Stihl MS460. He said, "It runs great. I'm super happy with it, but it doesn't have very good compression. It's a highway tight nickel with a caber rings, 52 millimeter. So that's a stock bore on a 460. I started with a flat top and put a pop-up in it, which helped. My numbers are 21 thou squish. That's about where I would run that. 101 exhaust. I think Caleb saw is 101, 100. 128 transfers and 80 intake. Will lowering my blowdown to say 125 help increase compression? I am nervous to shorten them." Okay, Chris. Well, let's bring you right into the saw cutaway. I think I would bring this to Buckinstock, the famous saw cutaway. And it's funny because it ain't fancy. It's just an old dirty saw that I cut in half. Okay, Chris. I'm going to give you the long and short of what all the things you did changed, okay? How did you change your saw by changing the numbers? Hopefully this isn't too simplified. I don't know where you're at in your porting journey, and sometimes it helps to really break things down. And then I'm going to give you the long and the short of it, or the short answer. Okay, so you're running 80 on the intake. 80 intake is quite low, so you've lowered the intake substantially. When you lower the intake, you lower how much case vacuum. Remember, it's a syringe. On the way up, the piston pulls vacuum on the case. So you have lowered your case vacuum. Now on the way down, you've lowered your case compression. Case compression is when the piston is compressing, friends. We're going to use that. Compressing the fuel, air, and oil that you've pulled into the bottom end, okay? Things that alter case compression. Doing machine work, heavy machine work, lowering the cylinder will make the transfers lower, will shorten everything below the piston, okay? We'll shorten the area below the piston. It won't shorten the space below. But you get what I'm saying, Chris, I hope. Okay? So, lowering case compression. Heavy machine work will alter your case compression. It'll make it slightly smaller. Larger, lower transfers. I get run through the coals for that. A lot of guys are like, you don't know what you're doing. Those big lower transfers. That's okay. To each their own. Lower transfer work raises case compression. Upper transfer work, or lowers case compression. Upper transfer work okay, will lower case compression because they will open sooner, right? If it opens sooner, you're not compressing it as much, right? Okay, all these things alter case compression. So you have low case vacuum and low case compression. So the byproduct of that is you may have lazy transfers. And what I mean is your flow out of your transfers, because if you have long blowdown, you typically have small transfers. Your transfers may be lazy, meaning you're not getting a lot of squeeze out of here and a good fill of your combustion chamber. That could be the reason why your compression's low. But remember, when you have a lower exhaust roof, okay, the longer it takes from here when it fires, you know, where it fires just before, but you guys know what I'm saying. We'll say it fires at top dead center, even though it doesn't. On the way down, the longer before the exhaust opens, the lower the pressure, right? It's bleeding off energy by moving all this. Okay, lower exhaust roofs will have lower pressure in there. Lower pressure means you can fill it up the same amount with less transfer pressure. So what you have to decide is, do you think raising these transfers will give you better flow? If you have better flow, you will probably have better case or better static compression when you pull it over, because you probably will fill this up better to a point. What you have to decide is, will it help? Okay, that's the long and the short. So I really want you to think about what you've done. My 460 that I built for Caleb, you guys saw me build that saw. I gifted that to him. He's my buddy. That saw has 152 intake, 24 degrees of blowdown, and like a 101 exhaust roof. Okay, that saw thumps, like thump, lots of compression. It's not hard to pull, but it's thumpy. So does exhaust roof make compression? Is that the only way compression is made? A lot of guys are going to tell you, yeah, compression and a pop-up, you know, cutting the squish band and having a low exhaust roof and putting a pop-up and all that stuff is the only way to get compression. Now, they are right to a point, but I have the same exhaust roof as you, and I probably have more compression by the sounds of it. And the only difference is my transfers are higher, and my intake's way shorter. Okay? How do you fix your intake? Well, you can put JB Weld in there if you want. JB Weld it, grind it back to the height you want. Caleb saw's 152. So, hold on a second. I'll grab my book. Here's my Cole's notes. Caleb's 460. Stock piston is 80 grams. Okay. No gasket. Exhaust 100. This is stock on that saw. Intake 72 or 144. Transfers 126. Ported, I left the exhaust roof at 100. I widened it a bit. Widened and chamfered. Okay, so I widened it the width of the factory chamfer. That's it. Transfers I raised to 124. So I shortened the blowdown, widened, and pitched up a few degrees. So I actually pitched them up slightly. Intake 152, and I did the Drake intake. Okay, the Mickey Mouse ears, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, that's all thumps, and I have a higher exhaust roof than you. Now, I'm going to say this, though. Does the saw run good? Does it run good? Does it start? Does it idle? Does it tune easily? If you check yes to all those boxes, who cares about compression? Compression, I don't focus on compression. I don't build for compression. And so if the saw runs good, don't go chasing compression. And the second thing is, you have cable rings and Titan nickel cylinder. That means you have a super hard ring bedding into a super hard cylinder. If you don't have that much time, 5, 6, 7, 8 tanks, that thing might not be fully seated. There may be more compression to be had. So Chris, that's my answer. Look at what you've done. Maybe you've changed the efficiency of the transfers. I suspect you probably have. My 100 exhaust roof and a widened exhaust port with higher transfers that are probably bigger than the ones in your saw. If you didn't do any transfer work, even if you did, mine are open 3 degrees longer or sooner and 6 degrees total opening longer than yours, but I have a shorter intake. So perhaps that is the answer. Anyhow, Chris, play with it. Raise the transfers. If that doesn't do it, try and lessen your intake and see. I find with a lot of steels, less intake is better, way better. They run stronger, they idle better, they pull harder. I find as you over intake a saw, they get lazy. They just do. Anyhow, hope that helps. On to the next one. Okay, let's get to the next one. This one, I saw the name and I recognize it right away. Ken Ferguson. Ken sent us some Pioneer parts maybe a year or two ago. Thank you, Ken. I remember you well, buddy. You're from Ontario somewheres. Lot of good subscribers and good followers in Ontario. There's a lot of guys that run vintage saws there. That area has helped me out a ton. So good to hear from you again, Ken. Ken is building a saw that's near and dear to my heart. Those of you that are new here might not know, but those of you that have been around, when my channel started to get traction when I started doing Homelites, and it was just a silly idea. I bought a couple of Homelites for $25. They're sitting here on the floor, and I've told this story before. I was sitting here with my buddy Fab Willie, and he's like, "What are you going to do with those?" And I was like, "I'm going to port one." I've never seen anybody port a Homelite, and I looked on YouTube, and nobody's touching those things. The only guy that gave love to Homelites was what's his face there? The guy that runs House of Homelite. Oh, I can't believe I forget his name. I'm a subscriber. I watched him the other day. He did a video. You know the guy, friends. Big tall guy. He's got a great radio voice. You guys are yelling at the screen right now, probably. You guys know the fella. He seems like a great guy. He's got all those Homelites, and he was the only guy. And I thought, how come nobody's porting these things? And I apologize, sir, if you're watching. I am a huge fan, and I've been watching your channel for like a decade, and I can't believe that I can't remember your name right now. That's it, friends. Hold on. Going back. I'm going to go to YouTube. Homelite. Homelite. Search YouTube. Homelite. If I type in Homelite, it better not come up with me. Homelite. Homelite. Buckin, you got the Homelite algorithm there, bud. Homelite. Where is this fella here? Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. Leon, I am so sorry, buddy. How did I not remember that? Anyways, love what you do, Leon. You are an absolute. You're just a wealth of knowledge for chainsaw folks like me. I just dabble in this stuff. Your Homelight knowledge is like up here. Anyways, friends, so I knew Leon played with them, but nobody else is really doing them. So I'm like, I'm gonna port this XL76. These things are a dime a dozen, and they run good, and I'm gonna give one some love. And that's kind of the rest is history. I guess just the right project at the right time. And I blew up a saw and, horsed it around, but I ended up building just a really incredible build. So anyways, Ken reached out to me. Ken is building a 922 Homelight, and I did one of those for Buckin, and it ran like a scalded cat. Homelights are some of the most amazing saws ported. They're also probably the hardest saw to port. I would put Homelights up there with McCulloughs. Like, and McCulloughs are hard to port. I have nothing but respect for guys that port Macs and like the vintage stuff. It's not an easy gig. Anyways, Ken's building a 922. He's trying to wrap it up. He's having issues. It's got a 925 top end. Replace the carb with a large bore SDC. Cut the piston top at the exhaust to match the bottom of the port at bottom dead center. Match the transfer ports to the case and round it at all the dead spots and points. Wow, they did not try hard to flow those cylinders. Ken, isn't it amazing, buddy? Friends, Homelights, when you look at the transition from the transfer to the case, some of those saws, there's like a 1/4 inch blocking. That's probably the top way to get power out of a Homelight is full that case. So it sounds like you did that. Remove the base gasket. Squish is 25 thou. That's really good for a Homelight. Cut the timing key and advance the timing. put a Welsh plug in the limiter hole of the carb. Wow, is it hard to start. It floods easily. Needs the low jet turned out at least 3 turns. High jet nearly as much. Grumpy to keep running until it warms up. Pressure test holds tight, both crankcase and carburetor. Does it sound like timing is just too advanced? Well, I'll get to the timing. First thing I would look at is that carburetor. Is that a good carb? Is the metering lever too high? I'd be digging in there right away, Ken. Also, maybe that carb's a little too big. I've had saws where the carb's too big or too small, and you end up having a saw that either you won't get enough adjustment, because the way I look at it is carburetors are vacuum operated. If you have too much vacuum or not enough vacuum, if you have too much vacuum pulling on the jets, it can be hard to tune because you're getting more adjustment. And the inverse of that, if you're not getting enough vacuum, you might have to turn that thing a lot to get any adjustment. So, Ken, I would try and throw a different carb on there. It's not a direct swap, but I run 272 carbs on my, or 268 carbs on my big Homelites. You got to fiddle and make linkages, but they run perfect. That carburetor, like a Tillichin HS, like a 272, 264B, 232B, any of those large bore Tillies off of Homelites, and they have, the nice thing is they have a screw for the idle. Those run absolutely perfect on Homelites. So I would maybe look at swapping the carb. Other thing, how are your reeds? Are your reeds in good shape? Are they sealing? I've had a lot of Homelites that won't start because the reeds are no good. I don't know how you vacuum pressured it, but I'm guessing you pulled the reeds out and maybe did a block off plate. I would look at those reeds real good. Maybe try flipping them around and see if the saw runs any better. I've also had reed block leaks in those. I had one of those XL76s I built, Ken. It was very similar. It was really hard to start. I couldn't get it going. And then it ended up, I had a leak on the reed cage. And of course, I was pulling the reeds out to put a block off plate in there to pressure and vac test it. And my reeds were actually leaking. So it was running lean and it was hard to start. As it warmed up, it would run better. But it was very similar. The other thing is, my biggest question to a lot of people is why did you do a timing advance? I find a huge confusion in the chainsaw porting world is if you port a saw, you have to do a timing advance. I hear that all the time. I read it. I rarely do timing advances on my saws because I feel a lot of times they don't need it. Some of my saws have a timing advance. Usually if they're over advanced, they are hard to start. They kick back, but you may have gone, you may have just changed the timing to the point that the saw is just not happy. And that could be why it's hard to start and doesn't want to idle and it's hard to keep running. It could be because your timing is completely off. What I would do is try and line that key back up or even retard it a bit, turn it back a bit and, see if the saw starts better. I think you're probably on the right wavelength. I thought I'd mention the carburetors because I have had that issue. But yeah, I would probably unadvance that timing. Ken, typically when guys advance timing, it's the guys that do a lot of machine work. When you do heavy machine work, you can get a lot of detonation, and the way to get rid of detonation often is to mess with your timing. I don't do that because I don't do a lot of heavy machine work. I don't find that it's necessary for the porting I do. Whereas another guy might be 100% in on the machine work. So anyhow, Ken, email me again if you have any more questions. And hopefully that works out for you. You'll get it. Sometimes these vintage saws, you work for them. I've been working for this partner. And sometimes they go perfect. And a lot of times, more often than not, they take a while. So to get them running right, almost every vintage saw I've ported, I get it running, and it could take me a month sometimes to get it where it's perfect. So just keep playing with it, and I think you'll be happy with it. Anyhow, friends, Thanks for hanging out on a Friday night. It's going to warm up. And just thanks for hanging out here. We got a good group of folks that come here every time I post a video. And I just really appreciate you guys hanging out here. Thanks for sending emails and questions and comments and thumbs up and thumbs downs. And, thank you to everybody that takes the time to subscribe. It's been quite a ride over the last 5 years, and I appreciate you guys. Later.